Recovered Guild Expedition Report. Status: unresolved. Begin record.
There are places on the ocean where maps become suggestions, compasses lose their certainty, and even veteran captains stop speaking above a whisper. Sailors have always blamed reefs, currents, and sudden storms for ships that never returned. But along the oldest trade routes, there is another explanation spoken only when every lantern has been extinguished. They say there is a kingdom beneath the waves, older than kingdoms built on land, ruled by something that neither sleeps nor forgives. They call it the Monarch of the Seas. If your ship enters its domain, the tide no longer belongs to the moon, the wind no longer answers the sky. Every current bends toward a single unseen will, and if the sea itself decides to pull you deeper, no prayer, no sail, and no hunter can stop what comes from below. The Guild dismisses most sailor folklore as panic wrapped in superstition. Storms happen, ships sink, monsters migrate. Every disaster can usually be explained by something known. Yet buried beneath hundreds of shipping records are reports that refuse to fit any natural pattern. Entire convoys vanish without wreckage. Fishing villages record impossible tides under clear skies. Thunderstorms appear without clouds and disappear moments after the final distress flare. The reports all share one detail that investigators rarely acknowledge in public. Before every disappearance, witnesses describe the ocean becoming unnaturally quiet. Birds abandon the coast. Leviathans flee toward shore. Even predators retreat from open water. Something larger has entered the region. Something old enough that every creature instinctively remembers to run. The Guild gave the phenomenon a classification that never reached ordinary hunters: Elder Lagiacrus, an evolutionary impossibility, a leviathan that had survived for centuries, perhaps longer, growing beyond anything documented in modern records until it ceased behaving like an animal. It became something closer to a natural disaster, a sovereign whose territory was measured not in miles, but in storms. Among sailors, however, it had another name: the Monarch of the Seas. The merchant vessel Blue Horizon departed Port Tanzia under calm skies, carrying supplies, ore, and a small escort of contracted hunters. Their assignment seemed routine. Merchant captains frequently hired hunters whenever routes passed near known monster habitats, especially Leviathan nesting grounds. No one expected an Elder Dragon-level threat. The Guild's charts marked the region as unusually calm. By the second evening, those charts no longer mattered. The tide changed without warning. Not gradually, as every sailor expects, but instantly. The sea simply stopped moving. Waves froze into rolling hills that never quite broke. The ship continued drifting, while the surrounding water remained perfectly still, creating the impossible sensation that only the vessel itself was moving across a painted ocean. The crew celebrated at first, believing they had entered an unusually peaceful current. That illusion lasted less than 5 minutes. Then every rope aboard the ship became coated with seawater despite the cloudless sky. Wooden beams groaned beneath invisible pressure. Glass lanterns began vibrating so violently they shattered on their own. The ship's navigator stared at the tide tables until his hands started shaking. According to every calculation, the ocean was flowing against gravity. The captain ordered an immediate course correction. The wheel refused to answer. 4 men threw their weight against it, yet the rudder remained locked toward open sea, as though another hand beneath the waves held it firmly in place. Only then did they notice the silence. No gulls circled overhead. No flying wyverns crossed the horizon. Even the wind had disappeared. The sails hung motionless while the vessel continued accelerating into deeper water. The hunters aboard finally admitted what every sailor already feared. They were no longer navigating. Something else had chosen their destination. Night arrived far too quickly. The sunset vanished behind towering walls of black cloud that seemed to rise directly from the ocean itself. Lightning flashed continuously inside them, yet no thunder followed. Instead, the sea glowed beneath the ship, revealing countless trails of blue electrical energy flowing like veins through the darkness below. One hunter suggested they had entered a Lagiacrus breeding ground. Another immediately dismissed the idea. No ordinary Lagiacrus could generate electrical fields extending for kilometers. No known leviathan could alter tides. Whatever lived beneath them exceeded every recorded observation. The first thunder strike came from below. The explosion launched 2 sailors completely off the deck. Splintered wood erupted upward as though struck by siege artillery. Every metal fitting aboard the vessel glowed white-hot for a brief instant, before cooling just as suddenly. Men collapsed screaming, their muscles locking uncontrollably while blue arcs danced across soaked clothing. The smell of burning flesh spread faster than smoke. More strikes followed. They did not descend from clouds. They erupted from beneath the hull, traveling upward through seawater before detonating across the ship like enormous underwater lightning rods. Every impact shook the vessel so violently that cargo broke free below deck, crushing anyone unfortunate enough to stand nearby. The escort hunters attempted to retaliate, firing harpoons into the glowing water. None reached their target. Something intercepted them below the surface, snapping reinforced cables with effortless force before the weapons vanished into darkness. Then the sea opened. A massive dorsal ridge emerged alongside the ship, stretching farther than anyone could measure in the storm. Blue electricity crawled across black scales scarred by centuries of battle. Coral formations had fused into armored plates along its spine, while entire colonies of deep-sea organisms clung to its body like a moving reef. It never surfaced completely. Only enough revealed itself to demonstrate its impossible size before slipping beneath the waves again. The captain gave the only order left to give. Abandon ship. Panic spread instantly. Lifeboats were lowered before being ripped sideways by currents moving in opposite directions simultaneously. One slammed into the hull hard enough to explode into splinters. Another vanished beneath a whirlpool that had not existed seconds earlier. The ocean itself had become the monster's weapon. Among the crew was a hunter named Garen, contracted only as additional security after surviving several expeditions into regions inhabited by Kezu. His pale armor, stitched from rubbery hide and insulated membranes, had earned him endless mockery throughout the voyage. Sailors joked that he looked more corpse than hunter. When the second wave of electrical blasts struck, the laughter ended forever. Men wearing steel collapsed instantly, their armor transforming into cages of lightning. Weapons melted from unbearable heat. Those thrown into the sea convulsed violently before disappearing beneath glowing water. Garen remained standing. The Kezu armor smoked and crackled, its natural resistance dispersing enough electricity to spare his life. Every strike still felt like molten spears driven through his muscles, but his heart continued beating while everyone around him fell. He would later claim surviving felt less like protection and more like being granted permission to witness the end. The storm intensified beyond anything nature could produce. Lightning no longer flashed intermittently. Continuous rivers of blue energy connected sea and sky until the horizon vanished behind walls of living electricity. Rain fell upward as magnetic forces dragged entire sheets of seawater toward the clouds before hurling them back down in explosive torrents. The blue horizon broke apart one beam at a time. Each thunder strike split another section of the hull. Cargo spilled into the sea, only to vanish instantly beneath enormous shadows circling below. The remaining hunters attempted to regroup near the stern, preparing dragonators and explosive barrels in one final desperate stand. They never found a target. Every time the shadow approached, it vanished before weapons could lock onto it. Every glimpse revealed only fragments, a claw larger than a wagon, teeth reflecting distant lightning, eyes glowing crimson beneath layers of black water. Eyes, not blue, not yellow, red, ancient, watching. Garen stumbled toward the shattered bow, barely able to stand as numb legs dragged through ankle-deep water, flooding the deck. Around him lay friends, sailors, and hunters whose bodies still twitched from residual electrical currents. The sea became perfectly calm again. Not because the storm ended, because everything else stopped moving. Rain froze mid-air for a heartbeat. Loose ropes drifted motionless. Even the crackling lightning seemed to hesitate. The ocean beneath the ship darkened until it resembled an endless pit descending into absolute night. No reflection remained. No moonlight touched its surface. It was not water anymore. It looked like an opening. Then two crimson lights ignited far below. At first, Garen believed them to be distant lanterns. Then they blinked. The abyss looked back. What rose from beneath the blue horizon could no longer be called Lagiacrus by any reasonable measure. Age had transformed it into something mythology struggled to describe. Its skull alone rivaled fortress walls. Jagged horns curved backward like broken masts, carrying scars left by battles fought generations before anyone aboard had been born. Its jaws unfolded impossibly wide. Rows upon rows of fangs extended far beyond any predator's natural anatomy. Broken teeth overlapped fresh ones. Smaller rows emerged behind larger rows until the darkness inside its mouth resembled a tunnel lined entirely with ivory blades. Hundreds of them shifted against one another with grinding sounds louder than thunder. Between those endless teeth burned the same crimson glow as its eyes. Not reflected light, something alive, something waiting. The monarch did not roar. The ocean roared for it. Every surrounding wave rose simultaneously, forming towering walls that enclosed the shattered ship within a circle of moving mountains. The vessel, already crippled beyond repair, slid helplessly toward the open maw as currents accelerated beneath it. Men screamed prayers. Others leaped overboard. None escaped. The whirlpool dragged every body, every fragment of timber, every shattered sail toward those impossible jaws. Garen drove a harpoon into the deck, wrapping one arm through the attached cable as the entire world tilted downward. The force nearly tore his shoulder from its socket. Around him, survivors lost their grip one after another, disappearing into darkness without even reaching the monster's teeth. They simply vanished, swallowed by the abyss itself. Then the mouth closed. The sound echoed across the ocean like mountains colliding. The blue horizon ceased to exist. Everything from bow to stern disappeared between those colossal jaws in a single motion. Hundreds of tons of timber, iron, cargo, and human lives were crushed beneath pressure great enough to shatter stone fortresses. The shock wave launched Garen free. His cable snapped at the final instant, hurling him clear of the collapsing vortex before unconsciousness claimed him. 3 days later, fishermen discovered him drifting across calm water nearly 50 kilometers from the disappearance site. His armor was scorched black. Every exposed inch of skin carried burns shaped like branching lightning. His hair had turned completely white despite his youth. He never removed the Kezu armor again. Guild healers questioned him for weeks. They expected concussion, hallucination, or ordinary trauma. Instead, they received testimony so consistent that scribes eventually stopped interrupting him. Every interview matched the last in terrifying detail, even months later. He insisted the elder Lagiacrus never hunted out of hunger. It hunted to preserve a border. According to Garen, the unnatural tides began hours before the attack because the creature itself altered the ocean around its territory. Storms followed wherever it traveled, not because it summoned them deliberately, but because its body generated electrical fields beyond natural comprehension. The sea obeyed simply because resisting that power became impossible. Most disturbing of all was his final observation. He claimed the ship was never attacked immediately because the Monarch waited for every possible escape route to disappear first. It herded vessels deeper into its domain with manipulated currents, disabled navigation, exhausted survivors with continuous electrical bombardment, and only revealed itself after hope had completely vanished. It understood fear. It cultivated it. When investigators asked about the red eyes, Garin stopped speaking for several minutes before whispering words no official report included. He said those eyes were not searching for prey. They were counting every soul aboard before deciding none would be allowed to leave. In his final interview, the veteran hunter leaned forward despite barely possessing the strength to sit upright. He warned the guild never to pursue the creature, never to mount an expedition, and never to believe that larger fleets would matter. Then he described the mouth one final time. He said no painting could capture its scale because the jaws were not the most terrifying part. The worst moment came after seeing the hundreds of fangs. Behind them, deeper within the throat, there was only darkness. Not the darkness of shadow, but the absence of everything. Looking into it felt like staring into the bottom of the ocean after every light in the world had died. He believed something else lived inside that darkness. Something even the Monarch carried with it. Whether those words belonged to a dying man's broken mind or reflected a truth too terrible to understand remains unknown. Garin died before sunrise. The official cause was cardiac failure, resulting from severe electrical trauma. The healers noted one final detail. Moments before his heart stopped, every candle inside the infirmary extinguished simultaneously, despite every window remaining closed. Witnesses claimed they heard distant waves striking a shoreline that lay dozens of kilometers away. Outside, the harbor tide changed without warning. The guild sealed every surviving record under restricted classification, rewriting the incident as an unusually violent storm that claimed another merchant vessel. Families received compensation. New shipping routes were established. Sailors were instructed never to discuss monsters capable of controlling oceans. None of it mattered. Within a decade, disappearances resumed along entirely different trade routes. Every investigation found identical warning signs: silent seas, impossible tides, lightning beneath clear skies, empty horizons where every living creature had already fled. Experienced captains now carry an old superstition passed quietly from generation to generation. Whenever the tide begins flowing against the wind, they immediately turn toward shore without asking questions. Cargo can be replaced. Contracts can be broken. Pride can be swallowed, because something far larger waits for those who continue forward. The ocean has countless predators, but only one wears a crown no sailor can see. It does not defend territory, because instinct demands it. It rules because nothing remains powerful enough to challenge its reign. The sea does not belong to mankind. It never did. It belongs to the monarch of the seas. So if you ever hear stories of phantom storms forming beneath cloudless skies, or ships disappearing without wreckage despite calm weather, remember that legends rarely survive for centuries without leaving something behind. Somewhere beneath the deepest waters, ancient eyes may still be watching the surface, waiting for another vessel to cross an invisible border that should never have been crossed. And if the ocean suddenly falls silent, if the tide begins moving against the moon, and if blue lightning starts glowing beneath your hull instead of above your mast, do not wait for proof. Turn back while the sea still allows you to choose. Because once the monarch chooses for you, the only witness you can hope to become is one who survives just long enough to describe the mouth before the darkness finally swallows your voice forever.
This report remains under investigation. The Guild closed this case. The archives did not.